Hey everybody, so let's talk about how you figure out your home equity line of credit, how it works, what it's calculated off of, and what you might be able to access from your home. My name is Rich Hayden, and I am the owner of Hayden Home Mortgage here in Northern Virginia. And so I want to walk through the basics of a HELOC with you. So, home equity line of credit. What is a HELOC? It allows you to tap into the equity in your home in between the balance of your first mortgage and whatever the value of your home is. Now, keep in mind that if your home currently has no mortgage, then you've got all that access. If your home has a first mortgage in place and that first mortgage goes up to a certain point, you may or may not be able to get access to the equity in your home. And there are a lot of different types of HELOCs out there. And which one is right for you really depends on your credit, your income, assets, your home, what your projected timeline is, what your intended use is of those funds. So the basics of a HELOC, though, is that the interest rate associated to it is tied to the prime rate. So you'll often hear or read, hey, it's prime plus X, whatever X is. So depending upon the lending institution that you get your HELOC from, you'll have prime plus something as your interest rate. So how do you figure out what prime is? Because it changes frequently. It changes every time potentially that the Fed meets, and you'll hear on the news or read in any news story about finance and about the Federal Reserve. Hey, the Fed increased rates today. What they're talking about is the Fed funds rate, and that has a direct correlation through to the prime rate. So right now, the U.S. In the United States, the prime rate is 7.75%. So if an interest rate on a HELOC is prime plus, let's say it's 2.25, well then you're going to end up, or prime plus 2.24, you'll end up at 9.99% for the interest rate. Okay, if it's prime plus 1, you'll be at 8.75. If it's prime plus 3, you'll be at 10.75. So you get the gist of it. So you can always find what the prime rate is. Just go to wallstreetjournal.com, WSJ.com, /market data, /bonds, /money rate. You can see that up top there. So let's talk about now, well, how do you figure out how much equity you have in your home? So here's a simple calculator. Now, there are some lenders who will go up to 100% of the value of your house, and this is what's called a combined loan to value. So if the simple math is, we'll use, we'll talk Northern Virginia numbers here, okay? And we'll say that you got a $500,000 house, which is probably a townhouse, might be a single family home, depending upon your community. And let's say on that home, you've got a $350,000 balance on that mortgage, okay? So out of the gate, we're going to learn that to get to 80% of the value of that home, you could access $50,000. To get to 85%, you could access $75,000. To get to 89.9%, you could get to $99,950. And what we mean by that is, let's pull up a calculator to make this a visual for you. Okay, so here we go. We're going to say if our balance is 350 plus 99,950, that equals 449,950. And then we divide that by 500, which is the value of the home, get 89.99%. Now, the lenders that I work with for HELOCs, they have a limit of 89.99%. And I would say that from a financial planning perspective, there's some value in that limitation, right? Now, I don't believe that we're going to see home values declining, at least not at any meaningful rate in the Northern Virginia markets. That may be a different story in different parts of the country, but based on our limited inventory, I think it's wise to not go up to 100% of the value of your home. Okay, you don't want to be in a position of potentially being underwater. I, again, don't believe that that is a likelihood. But so if that's the case, then we can get 99,950 out of this home as far as the potential of grabbing, some of that equity. Now, what does that mean, grab that equity? Well, it means I've got access to that equity. I may not spend a single penny of that, but what I've done is I've created access to that money so that if I want to buy a car, I can write a check for that car. Now, then I'll have to pay at that interest rate, whatever that is, but I'll make the determination on what the timeline is to repay that mortgage, or repay that that car loan? Or what if I've got credit card debt at 20, 22, 23% as an interest rate? And say there's $25,000 to $30,000 of that credit card debt, which is not unusual in Northern Virginia as I look across the many clients I've served over the years. Well, paying off that credit card debt at 9.5% or 10% is a heck of a lot better than paying it back at 20 to 25%, which is a very common interest rate on credit cards. Okay, so let's go over here and do the math. If we had that amount of money being borrowed, $99,950, and again, we're going to talk about the prime rate. If that prime rate is 7.75, okay, and I can tell you with certainty, 7.75, that at Flagstar, which is this particular investor that we work with, they're at 2.24 for their margin, which is prime plus that X, whatever X is, that margin. So that means 9.99 is the interest rate, right? Okay, so we say 9.99, and then do a quick little note here for you. So a Heloc, in many cases, it's a 20-year note. With Flagstar, it's a 30-year note. And what that means is that you've got 10 years during which you're only required to repay the interest only portion of that. So in the case of if I took out the full $99,950, I'd have a payment of $832 a month. And then after 10 years, if I didn't pay anything down, I would have to begin repaying the entire principal balance. And that payment would go up to $963.88. Okay, so what if I only took $50,000 out? Okay, there's the math. It'll change as whatever balance you have outstanding at the time, the math will be calculated off of that balance. Okay, now, what if the prime rate goes up? Well, then your payment is going to go up. So as the Fed meets periodically, they'll make decisions to either increase the Fed funds rate or decrease the Fed funds rate. And if they bring the interest rates down, which we can, make any number of estimations that I would expect them to begin doing that in 2024, maybe into 2025, well then so too will your interest rate come down on this, unlike your mortgage that is a fixed rate mortgage that's in first position. So that's how a Heloc works. Kind of nuts and bolts. Give me a call. I'm at 703-957-0790. I'd love to help you determine whether or not this is a good tool for you and how you can execute on this and put it into use in your home. All right, take care, everybody.